Om Namo Venkateshai. Let's discuss the Saturn retrograde transit for Libra Moon and Ascendant. For Libra Moon and Ascendant, you are already seeing a very beautiful peak with this transit because this is definitely positive. Shani's transit through 6th from your sign always brings a lot of prosperity, but it brings that prosperity at the risk of questioning you whether you are ready to seek those blessings and put that required effort to prove it to them that you deserve that exponential growth or not. And this is exactly what the theme of this transit would be. For Libra folks, you have seen some very susceptible losses in the past, especially for people who were involved in finances, who were involved in stock investments. There was some time period where you were seeing that things have broken down to go in a very bad shape. You almost felt like it is not going to be recoverable, but you came out from that strong somehow. And the reason you came out strong from that is because you went into an acceptance mode. You saw that you had to change jobs, you saw that you had to move away from a lot of things, you saw that some of the connections that you felt emotionally invested into were not reciprocating, and all of that is something Saturn has taught you when it was fifth from you during its time in Aquarius. The Saturn retrograde demands you to finally put wings in order to soar higher. And it is asking you to finally overcome that imposter syndrome, which is working like a self imposed restriction upon yourself that is preventing you from manifesting to the largest. You always were a person who nurtured, or rather, I would say, who cared for others a lot, who cared about being diplomatic and navigating their way out without fighting everybody else. But in that entire process, there was a time period when you started losing yourself. And that is when the fundamental crux or issues had started along earlier. Saturn this time wants to remind you that there is no longer any restriction that you need to hold yourself back to. You need to make sure that you chase opportunities very actively. You need to make sure that you are not feeling or giving yourself a fake reassurance that you are satisfied. Because the moment you do that, you are depriving of yourself from a very beautiful prosperity that could have came as a potential growth in your life, especially from a career point of view. It is a very positive transit for folks who are aiming to give competitive exams, provided that you attempt at least 3 to 5 attempts of mock papers. The reason I said that is because whatever failed attempts you see due to the retrograde energy of Saturn, you will be able to identify your mistakes from that. And that would give Saturn the proper reassurance that it needs to elevate you in the final exam. So that is something which will be very worthwhile, because a lot of Libra Moon and Libra Ascendant folks are going to crack their respective competitive exams in this transit, which will last till November end. So I'm pretty sure it is well within the range of the dates of a lot of good competitive exams as well. More importantly, Saturn wants you to understand that being emotionally mature was the lesson it already taught you last time when it was fifth from your sign. Now is the time to apply that emotional maturity across. And if you fail to do so, then it will be Saturn's unnecessary burden to put you back into the same loop, which you won't really desire. Trust me on that. That emotional maturity has to be displayed to Saturn in all possible events and cases. You cannot afford to go back to the connections that you have lost already. You cannot afford to go back into the planning state that I cannot prepare for this competitive exam anymore. You cannot go back into the comfort zone reminding yourself that it's okay to have this toxic job just because it is stable. It is okay to have a comfort zone because I have EMIs to pay. No, you cannot. Because if you go back into that and you allow your maltreatment by giving that opportunity to others, then Saturn will put you back in a very serious loop. Saturn is demanding you to make changes in the way you serve others. By coming to 6 from your sign, it is reminding you to take a stand for yourself, start getting busy, Put a routine in place and make that domain change if that is what you were aiming for. If you're looking out for a new job, go ahead and apply to multiple of them. Change your resume, find faults in yourself, be critical about yourself, and make sure that you set very drastically realistic deadlines in order to action upon them. Make sure that you are getting interview calls in the next few months in order to capitalize on them. Make sure that if you are failing them, then you need to learn from the mistakes about it, and you should not be emotional about it. You should not take it personally and feel that I don't know, or you should not question your self-worth. Then you are giving message back to the Saturn that you have not become emotionally mature, and that is what Saturn does not want to see. It wants to see you normalize failures initially. And once you prove it to them, then you will see that your growth is extremely exponential. You have already seen, in case you were in finances related to your stock investment losses earlier, that there comes a mindset where you have to start rebuilding things. And you showed and demonstrated or learned the hard way a lot of emotional maturity in that process already. More importantly, Saturn wants to make sure that you overcome your fear of loneliness or isolation, because it's major challenge in terms of its aspect towards your 8th from your sign, towards 12th from your sign, towards 3rd from your sign. It is trying to make sure that you make several boundaries with a lot of friendships, but these boundaries are not in terms of how you sacrifice for them. That is fundamentally very different. That is probably for people like Cancer or people like Taurus at the moment, where they are recontemplating things. For you, it is more about a boundary regarding vulnerability, that if you are preparing for a competitive exam, you need to keep it low profile. You need to keep it to yourself. You need not announce it to 10 people in your family. You need not tell it to the friends that I am preparing for mocks, because then you will be deprived of it. And then you will see something else manifest for you, because Saturn being 6th from your moon, in case you are a Libra moon or even ascendant, is actually pretty positive. So it will manifest option A or option B. This is how you react to it. That means if you become vulnerable to others about your desires, then it will fulfill the desire somehow in the long run by manifesting something which you did not desire, ironically. But in the longer run, you will realize that you were destined to go down that path also. So that's the beauty of Saturn. But in case you really strongly want to manifest what you desire at the moment, you need to make sure that you are low profile. You need to make sure that you are keeping it to yourself. You need to be secretive. And being secretive is going to be challenging. That's what the aspect to 8th from your sign actually means over here. More importantly, this is not the phase to feel detachment. In fact, you are in a very good networking mode, I would rather say. And you will be seeing a lot of growth if you go into the networking mode in the correct direction. For example, if you are a student in competitive exams, definitely go ahead and interact with equally ambitious people. Make sure you see what their patterns and mistakes are being made. When you are having a conversation in terms of networking, Saturn expects emotional maturity from you that it has taught you in the last few years. What it means is that while you are addressing a diplomatic conversation with somebody, you are not just focusing about their achievements, unlike who you used to be as a conversation starter 2 years back. Now, Saturn wants you to refine your communication skills and make sure that you get to know what mistakes did the other person did. And Saturn wants you to take a lesson from that, to somehow be precautious about it. Learn from other people's mistake. Make those changes in your life or your way of preparing for exams or your way of giving interviews by learning from other people's mistakes and experiences. Saturn wants you to slay competition. And the easiest way to slay competition is by getting to know what mistakes was committed by the competition. So that's what Saturn going 6 from your sign actually means. It also means that you need to be open to explore new domains. For example, in case you were interested to start that content creation channel, go ahead and do it. There is no other way for you to find out. The worst that can happen is you would fail. If you were interested to start writing a blog, go ahead and do it. Try it out and then fail upon it and then fail again upon it. But then stick with it and stick with it for some time. at least till the retro season is over. And then from December onwards, you will start somehow seeing a weird blessing that, okay, I never expected this to work out, but it's again working out for me. This might not be the case for other people who are seeing, let's say, ninth transits or say third house transits also to a certain extent, even though third house transits are also seeing pretty positively from a Saturn perspective, but it will work out for you. Because Saturn's natural domain is sixth house. Saturn's natural domain is slaying competition. And Saturn wants you to learn how to run a marathon. If you see how people genuinely react to running as an activity, you would get the exact answer of what happens when Saturn transits 6 from your sign. People who are new to running will always start at a high speed. They will get tired in the middle way, either they will give up in the middle way, or they would become slower and be left behind. While somebody who is a seasoned fitness finesse, who is a professional runner, or even if not a professional runner, but a smart runner, they would start slow. They would maintain that speed constantly, and then they will focus on finishing the marathon only when they don't have anybody else left till the moment they have stick to it. So that's exactly what this transit is about. It is about learning to plan that marathon, because there will be many opportunities that will come your way, there will be many achievements that will come your way, but unfortunately every achievement will have its own cascading challenges. For example, let's say the Saturn helps you out in cracking a competitive exam. You might have to undergo an interview post that. You might have to undergo other eligibility criteria post that in order to actually reach your desired manifestation. And this could be unanimously applicable to any exam, whether it could be UPSC, it could be CAT, anything, which is true. And therefore, Saturn will open you new gates to new challenges only. Keep that in mind. So you have to constantly prove to it that I am emotionally mature, that I know that if I decode or crack this, it will open a new obstacle for me. But I will stick with that new obstacle and I will prove it back to you that I am worth cracking that as well. And that's where Saturn will be super impressed with you. So Saturn is here to support you throughout that journey. It will handhold you also, because a sixth from a moon or even an ascendant is seen positive, more positive from the moon side. But it will only be making sure when you prove that you are ready for it. So all the best to all my Libra folks, and hopefully this transit will give you lot of intuition, lot of realizations. And yes, one thing which I missed out is, the more intuitive you feel about a lot of things, give into that gut instinct. That means if you thought after attempting 7 to 8 past year papers in a competitive exam, you found some pattern that, I feel this question might repeat. Yes, it will repeat. If you thought that I will be asked this particular question in my interview, yes, it will be asked. And you will be super surprised that it will go that way. Because when Saturn is activating both 12th and 8th, your intuition is at its peak and your intuition is going to lead to manifestation, because it is challenging you in terms of its aspect to give in to that intuition. At the same time, it makes sure that you don't only ride upon your luck. That's why I said an achievement will open gate to new challenges, and there would be a cascading bombardment of challenges in your life, but you need to be emotionally mature to prove that I am not impacted by it and I will move ahead no matter what. So go ahead with that spirit and make sure that you use this opportunity to risk it all and win it all the very best to all my Libra folks. Om Namo Venkateshaya. Let's begin with the Saturn retrograde transit for Scorpio ascendant and Scorpio moon folks. For Scorpio moon folks, this is the time period when you will see that Saturn expects you to build upon your emotional maturity. What does it simply mean? It means that you will not have the luxury of being able to impose your opinions, your learnings, your experiences, your cognitive biases onto other people. And people will be challenging you from different personal spheres of areas this time around, which means that the seventh house, which is getting activated for you due to Saturn's aspect, the 11th house, which is getting activated for you due to Saturn's aspect, as well as the second house, which was getting activated for you due to Saturn's aspect. All of this would be giving you challenges day by day. So what do all of these houses represents? It represents your life partner, it represents your elder siblings if there are any, it represents your network, it represents your own family, your father's side family. All of these people together will be trying to ruin your mind peace for sure, and this is something that you are already learning. Till now you always had this luxury of dealing with these people in a very detached or distant apart way. Because of your intimidating nature, none of these people would have actually tried ruining your mind peace earlier, but now somehow you are being compelled to take over responsibilities, accountability for all of these people's problems in your life, and it is not gelling with you very naturally. More importantly, you are in a condition, unlike earlier when you used to rebel about things, when you used to be aggressive or passively aggressive also, that you honestly don't even care anymore. That, yeah, you can come and, misunderstand me, and I don't feel the need to even explain myself, because you have already experienced the power of Kantakshani in the last transit, and you really don't give a damn about how people anymore perceive that. But that is not completely emotional maturity. Emotional maturity would be when you actually have to balance the way you are emotionally invested into people, where you have to sit down and select the right people, filter out the other ones, and then you need to make sure that you are redirecting, sacrificing, or redirecting your detachment energy in the right set of people and not forcing upon the genuine folks. So that segregation is something that this Saturn retrograde transit is going to expect out of you, and it's going to be slightly difficult because your natural trait or your natural comfort zone is to treat everybody anonymously. Now, the bigger issue which comes over here along with this is the fact that Saturn will be expecting you to give a transparent communication about your issues and problems and voice your concerns to your partner very actively, and this is something that you are going to struggle a lot with, because you naturally have been a person who does not like asking for help, who wants to manage things on their own, who is not really interested to be a team player. Especially after the Kantak Shani transit of last year, you are more inclined to remaining an individual contributor even in a team. So it's going to be difficult to be able to address all these trust issues that you have developed, to be able to address all this trauma that you have been induced in the past 1 year, especially from workplace, from even from marriage side, to an extent where you feel that, okay, if I'm not misunderstood, I'm not going to voice my concerns. Now the problem will be that now you will be started to be judged by the other person, and that is where the serious issue lies. Why? Because misunderstandings from society is something that might not bother you, but misunderstandings from somebody as close as a life partner in personal space could prove to be very devastating in the long run, and therefore you will have to learn the right way to communicate, the right way to sugarcoat your speech, the right way to express your concern, the right way to hear your inner voice as well. Because Saturn is going to help you evolve your inner voice with its aspect to the second from your sign on Sagittarius. So, your inner voice that used to be in a state where you used to always deny hearing it and rather would focus on something which is your gut instinct telling directly, which is fundamentally very different from an inner voice, because it's second house and eighth house we are talking in terms of difference, now will be refined. And now you will have to finally hear your inner voice. You will have to be forced to come in front of people. As an eighth houser, naturally, if you are a Scorpio moon or ascendant, it is difficult to accept or learn reformation around your second house, right? Especially given that eighth house represents complete research oriented thinking, where you are in a complete solitude, and second house is again similar to seventh house. Both are called marka bhavs, and it is putting you in front of people. And when second and seventh from your sign are activated simultaneously, you will be put in front of too many people. Right. And honestly, this is not even going to drain your social battery down because you don't even care about these people. And that's the bigger essence. Social battery would be drained in case I am forced into situations where, I need to seek a sort of validation, but you don't even seek that from this set of people. So now what is exactly Saturn trying to tell you over here in this retrograde transit? Saturn is trying to tell you that you can develop your own aura, you can develop your own personality and state of mind and your mindset in the ways that you want, but you don't have the right to impose that upon others, and you need to fulfill your responsibilities with respect to society somehow without even trying to apply what you have learned from your experiences. Which means, let's say for example, that you learned in the past context shani transit that networking is pretty overrated, and friendships are not really supposed to be transactional by nature, but most of the people try to incline in that direction, and therefore I am not interested to even spend an ounce of effort in investing my time and effort in that direction anymore. Now this same thought process might not be applicable to somebody else. They might be in a different phase of evolution, or they might be in a different phase or a zone of learning, and therefore you coming out and directly giving that rude opinion to somebody else who is trying to network and telling boss it does not work, bro, it will stop working for you out as well. Right? You don't want a genuine connection. You don't need to actually interfere in the karma or learning path of somebody else. Just keep this in mind. That's what this transit essentially means. That is emotional maturity, that whatever my learning and experiences I've induced will stay close to me, and I'm not supposed to really impose that cognitive bias onto other people. Sometimes this is going to piss you off a lot. Why? Because there would be a lot of things that you are not in favor of doing or performing, but you might end up doing it simply out of a sense of duty. And that's what emotional maturity is all about. That's what Saturn is trying to teach you, that yeah, we have to fulfill some expectations from people, even if it is not supposedly personal, but you need to get it over with. The bigger chunk of issue is that a lot of people are going to come to you and complain that why are you looking so unenthusiastic about dealing with these situations. So now your immediate reaction is that I am fulfilling as a sense of duty towards you whatever is your requirement, but please don't expect me to be enthusiastic about it because I disapprove of this. And honestly, typically it is okay to have that mindset. As long as you are doing what you can do best without burning yourself out, that is totally fine. A fifth house transit of Saturn keeps your emotional investment in a lot of check. Earlier, if you see yourself 1.5 or 2 years back, you would have realized that if somebody with similar expectations was coming into your life, you would have sacrificed a lot for them. You would have went out of your way, ignored your comfort zone, ignored your beliefs, ignored your experiences, and helped them out like crazy, right? But now that is not the case, right? That's what Saturn's unemotional practicality induces to fifth from your sign, which is Pisces, right? That if somebody is coming and asking you for honest advice and they are not ready or willing to hear what you really want to give as an advice to them, then that's not your problem, and you honestly couldn't care more about it. So that's how things are going to progress. You will feel unemotionally emotional. How ironical that might sound, but it's very much true. That yeah, I am emotionally invested by my sense of duty that needs to be fulfilled, but I am not supposed to approve or disapprove or provide any opinion as such about whatever duties I am about to fulfill, whether it could be related to elder sibling who is expecting some marriage or expecting some referral opportunity, whether it could be related to life partner who is expecting you to put more demands and make sure that they feel valued, whether it is from the father side family or even family in general due to the second house relation as well coming out of this transit. Handle everything in a very unanimous way, that yeah, I am neither happy nor sad, and this is who I am now. I need to finish off my work and I will make sure that nobody has any complaints. But don't expect me to be cheerful all the time around. So that's how things are going to progress. You will feel insecure about your finances, especially your earlier savings. This is also the time you people might have already finished some sort of a higher education, or you are definitely planning to master some field in this entire next few months. It could be demanded from work, where you might be seeing that you are committing some mistakes or you are left behind some other people. But now you are in a very comfortable zone because you are in a transition between theory and experience compared to the last transit of Saturn retrograde. So now your focus is to put a much higher emphasis on mastering one skill. It could be at work, it could be in dealing people, it could be something else which really interests you, but you will definitely master it and then come out. The only problem is, despite mastering it, you are not going to feel very enthusiastic about it as such. It is also a time that, would make you see some wasted education coming your way as well. Now, always remember, none of the education is wasted, truly as such. But, Saturn gives a very realistic check that not everything that you are educated about turns out to be result oriented unless you see it in the longer run when you see a bigger picture. So yes, there would be a lot of new knowledge bases, a lot of new things that you are going to learn, especially if you are in a service based job. Definitely you would have been seeing that your hustle requires you to upskill, and you will master that upskill very nicely. The only thing is, it is so chaotic in your personal sphere right now, and you are feeling that your voice is not being heard by others, and to the extent now that you are giving a reassurance to yourself that it is okay or it is normal for me to not being heard by others. I don't expect anything out of them, and I don't really definitely not expect them to understand what I'm trying to convey. And it would be like a moment, you can say, which is a very recurring moment in your life anyway, with previous transits also. You are going to have your I told you so moments during this transit multiple times towards people, but this time around you might not even voice that concern out. That's all about it. So that's the key difference. That's what emotional maturity is all about. That's what Saturn going fifth from your sign represents truly. It shows that you are becoming a person who is having realizations with experience, and these realizations are going to make you wiser and wisest. So focus on evolving your wiser self. Don't focus on letting others ruin your mind peace. This transit is going to be accompanied by multiple people testing your patience, multiple people trying to trigger your natural stances. And honestly, given that for Scorpio folks, Saturn rules the friendship energy, rules the satisfaction energy, and it is going fifth from your sign in Pisces, and it is going retro. So it is going to make you retrospect a lot about what satisfaction truly means, what a friendship truly means. Is there supposed to be a balance between transactional friendships and friendships that are emotionally invested as well? Earlier you used to be very zero or one, that if I am emotionally invested, then only I'm gonna call it friendship. If I am transactional by nature, I will not call it friendship. But now you are going to realize that there are going to be stances or needs of people with different zone of life, with different expectations and requirements from you, tailored to cater to your needs as well. Unfortunately, that's the reality, and you will finally understand what it means when Saturn is ruling third and fourth from your sign, right? Because Saturn ruling third and fourth means it is encouraging a sense of balance. It is not letting you gel with the extremism energy that is your natural trait, and therefore that is what true emotional maturity represents. That yes, I will be a person who would be emotionally invested on my own terms in some people, but there would be some people who are going to remain transactional, and I have to accept them that way. The actual hurt that is kind of coming in this transit is not in terms of friendships drifting apart. It is already done. Let's be realistic. The last transit, when you saw the Kantak Shani, those friendships have already been drifted apart. The hurt comes when you realize that there were some people in which you had perceived that you are supposed to be emotionally invested into, and they turned out to be transactional. Right? That is something which you are going to retrospect more closely during this transit. You are going to not welcome other people that easily anymore, and it is okay to take your time to process everything. There is no rush for you. And Saturn, when it is transiting through trikonas from anybody's sign, it clearly indicates that one thing that you should definitely learn is patience and no rush around anything. So learn to take your lessons, learn to develop that emotional maturity, and see how it takes you further on. All the very best to all my Scorpio friends. Om Namo Venkateshaya. Let's understand the Saturn retrograde transit from the perspective of Sagittarius ascendant and Sagittarius moon folks. For Sagittarius folks, if you are a moon, this is definitely the time period of Kantak Shani, which means Shani is transiting either 4th or 8th from you, in your case, 4th from your sign. And more importantly, I would always say that, Sagittarius is one of those blessed signs where the Kantak Shani can also manifest in your life only by going into a Jupiterian sign, which is also your ascendant lord. So compared to others, I would say the Kantak Shani effects for you are slightly lesser, or more importantly, it is just one way to indicate that for Sagittarius folks, spiritual evolution and questioning of life philosophically comes so naturally that Saturn also gels with you pretty nicely. The issue with this Saturn retrograde that you will be addressing is the fact that you have been constantly running away from your responsibilities, constantly seeking higher education, seeking more knowledge base, expanding opportunities by being a little bit carefree. And your natural nature itself is to be a person who goes with the flow a lot of times, but now things are kind of biting you back because of that carefree nature. You have already seen a good positive transit in terms of Saturn when it was coming third from your sign last year around. Some of you might have went for higher education, some of you might have had that change of jobs, some of you might have relocations along with those jobs, and you were starting your life from scratch. There was a lot of fun and frolic, a lot of new adventures, a lot of things that you would call were part of your bucket list, and you were able to deliver all of them together. Lately, especially from March end onwards of this year, you started realizing that you are being hit by responsibilities once again, and it is time for you to take a little bit of a reality check in order to come back on the top. And Saturn exactly wants you to address that by being retrograde from fourth from your sign. What does it truly mean over here? First of all, Saturn is going to contemplate you with a career check, and you are going to associate your career with your individuality, because both your sign and your 10th house, which is Virgo, is going to be impacted directly from Saturn's aspect during this entire transit. It is important for you to now become serious about your exit opportunities, about the way you are going to navigate career. Saturn is able to sense that there is a sense of inertia in terms of expectations that you are setting from career point of view. Which means, for example, let's say if some of you went for higher education lately in, let's say, analytics or in computer science, that you have always thought that I will probably end up into roles similar to my domain. I will end up in roles similar to what I have been doing earlier, or I will end up in roles that I have set my intention towards. Saturn is going to flip this a little bit. Saturn is going to realign the entire path and create some circumstantial issues in your life, whether it would be challenge in terms of finding the right job that you are seeking, or in terms of making sure that even if you are trying to manifest what you had sought after is not what exactly you are getting. So you might end up with some result, but it would be a result that you might not have signed up for, and this will dissatisfy you. This will really make you feel frustrated. It's going to make you feel that, okay, I am putting so much effort with a particular intention, but everything is happening reverse that intention. The idea is to normalize this and not overreact to this. Sometimes you have to be more practically driven compared to being philosophical and idealistic all the time. For example, if you are doing an MBA and you are not getting your desired marketing job, you need to be open to select other domains which other MBA people follow. If you are a computer science engineer and you always thought that, okay, I look down upon product management, I look down upon non-technical roles, or even if technical roles but with a little bit of a less executionary skill and more of a visionary skill, then it is time that Saturn will give you a reality check that these jobs only will manifest for you, and these jobs are not your number one choice, and you will have to eventually learn how to deal with them before you can even get back to your domain. So Saturn is trying to slowly open you to new experiences, and that's what Kantakshani is all about. In order to open you to new experiences, Saturn needs to filter out some layers of cognitive bias, some layers of thinking and perception that you have already inbuilt yourself basis your experience and societal notions. It could be the fact that you look down upon some roles a few years back and you might actually end up in the same role to learn to empathize with that job functionality on your experience basis. So that is how difficult this transit could be. Now, the good thing about this is that a Kantak Shani is always about realigning you to the very best. A Kantak Shani does not let you settle down for things, right? And what I mean by that is, let's say if you were a carefree person and you just wanted some way to, escape out of this entire frustration of changing domains, being serious about career, then you will try to find some boring job because your sixth house is also activated where you are actually good at, which is much of your comfort zone already and you are pretty adept at doing it. And then you will try to use that job itself, even if it is underpaying you, to continue seeking more adventures or continue making your life the same way it has always been. This will not be allowed by Shani. That's the particular issue. Saturn will make sure that you are not getting that desired comfort zone anymore. It could also pose some mental anxiety issues, some physical health issues around this. You will feel exhausted by your travels, where this will be very surprising to you because usually you are a person who just enjoys seeking thrill, and suddenly your entire mindset is now going together to tell you that, okay, I need to stay in a room and I need to hustle. And some of your friend circles are also going to be really surprised by this. The good news is that Saturn gave you some really good new friendships in the last transit around, and these are some friendships that are actually, even if not emotionally invested into, these are some really good referral network possibly that can elevate your career stances. So utilize that network that has been gifted to you by Saturn. Make sure that you are making good use of that, and by its utilization we mean that you let the other person talk as well. Saturn is going to wipe you out slightly from your devil advocate tendencies also. Earlier you were a person who would, start a fight immediately, get into a debate immediately about a difference of opinion with somebody, but the sixth house getting a little bit of aspect from Saturn in terms of the third aspect, this time around you are going to become a little bit of a softy when it comes to debating. You are going to question whether, what is my goal in even debating people, what is my goal in arguing with people. And if you don't have a clear intent or a goal out of it, then you will feel deprived of the joy of debating as a whole, and you will go and become a very silent person, and suddenly you will be focusing all this energy back to you. For example, earlier when your family used to call and question your idealistic tendencies or question what you are doing, you would have rebelled back to them aggressively. Now when they call and ask you that, you are not exactly rebelling back to them, you are empathizing with the fact that they actually care about you, and that is why they are asking those difficult questions and difficult conversations to you, which are not exactly philosophical and idealistic. So you are going to question all of that. You are going to question, what is it in it for me? How do I earn more money? How do I elevate my career? How do I chase satisfaction? This is also a time period when you will see that either you have to work super hard to accept new growth coming into your plate, and you will be super busy and exhausted mastering all the skills around it, or if you decide not to actually pursue in that direction, then you will be stuck in two different jobs, one after the other, let's say, with the same pay or with the same sense of satisfaction, where you are not going to feel, or you are going to definitely feel, that there has been no growth as such. So don't let this Saturn retrograde transit go into the second direction that I talked about, right? Be more mature, be able to process the fact that yes, it is okay, it is normal to step out of comfort zone, it is okay to not think in theory and be more of an executionary person. So that is what this transit is all about. This transit will also force you to go back to the gym. You need to let go of a lot of weight that you have gained in the past few months, especially given your hectic schedule. It is not like that you haven't been exercising or you have been depressed about something. No, it is more about the fact that uh, it is time for you to realign into a new direction. And sometimes realigning into a new direction involves severe overthinking days, and those overthinking days can emotionally topple you down very badly. So it's very important for you to get back to some physical exercising, and need not be very big of an activity. It could be as simple as some 45 minutes of brisk walking on an everyday or alternate day basis what you find comfortable. More importantly, it is also the time when you are going to associate what do I really intend to do as a service to others, what do I really intend to provide, my purpose or my life path, how I can correlate my tendency to serve others with my karma, my life path, and then basis these two, you will define your individuality. Why did I say that? Because Saturn is aspecting all these houses from your sign. Saturn is aspecting the sixth, it is aspecting your own sign, your lagna, your individuality, and it is aspecting the 10th, which is Virgo, which is your career and life purpose. So you need to understand, sit down and think more about how do I earn money by providing some sort of service and still be aligned to my karma path, and that is how I will be able to define my identity. This transit is going to be all about that. Also keep in mind, this transit might turn out to be more of a planning phase, because you will not see results coming immediately out of this transit at all. It is possible that after November ends, after this transit was over in terms of retrogression, that you will actually start seeing some silver lining results. So treat this entire few months as a boilerplate to make sure that you are prepped up and ready to take that next job that you had been dreaming for, or you are ready to align yourself into some other practical job also, in case you don't end up getting or bagging that dream job that you have been thinking. Don't ever feel disappointed. That's the rule number one. And why is this happening to you? Because you have been preaching this to others constantly, that don't be disappointed, be optimistic. But when experience hits you, Saturn is now trying to test out that what you have spoken and given as an advice to others, prove it back to Saturn that you yourself practice it or not. And that's what this transit is about. This transit is about learning to process disappointments properly, learning to convert those disappointments into exponential growth, and more importantly, learning to capitalize or practice what you have been preaching for a very long time. So make sure you end up proving this to Saturn in a very profuse and a very mundane fashion also if needed, because Saturn, unlike you, does not seek adventures and thrills. It seeks pure growth and consistency. So all the very best to all my Sagittarius folks for this transit. Om Namo Venkateshaya. Let's quickly understand the Saturn retrograde transit from the perspective of Capricorn Moon and Ascendant folks. For Capricorn Moon folks who had experienced the Sadesati earlier, this transit is the perfect way to reward you, because Saturn is going third from your Moon, which is seen as a very positive transit, because you are feeling very energetic. You are in a state of mind that you have accepted your current growth. You are planning some more ambitions, you are feeling energetic enough, you are not in a mode where you are detached and in a give up like situation, rather you are in a much more optimistic situation at the moment. What Saturn in Pisces truly means for you Capricorn folks, including ascendant as well to a certain extent, is the fact that you have a new insight towards your future. You have a new insight towards the way your belief system works. Because in the past few years, especially if you are a Capricorn moon who suffered from Sadesati, you have realized that being practical does not necessarily mean that I will always get the results, that being nice to people does not always means that other people will automatically value me. And you had this reality check where you found workplace banters, where you fought against workplace injustice lately, and you had also seen yourself switch into a new job where you were not able to easily adapt, but now somehow things have started working out for you, and slowly and steadily, just with time, with a lot of patience, you have navigated your way upwards. You are in now a situation where you feel comfortable enough, you feel stable enough, and more importantly, you have an appreciation for it. The earlier you who used to rant about the fact that if I am given growth, I would become more ambitious, I will change my goalpost and try to chase more growth, is now no longer the same, right? Because now you feel blessed about the growth and the stability that has been given to you, no matter how minuscule it might be at the moment. Trust me on this, your expectations had completely died down, and therefore, whatever you are having with yourself right now is something that you feel super glad about. It's something that you find a sense of belonging with, and therefore, you don't mind your current state of mind at all. This is the time period where you feel that I need to do something hands on, because the Saturn is going retrograde third from your actual sign, and therefore you feel like, let me involve myself into art, let me involve myself into creativity. But more importantly, you are in process about discovering something of an emotional side about yourself, some natural traits that had always been suppressed because of you seeking logic or practicality in every scenario. And these natural traits will be discovered during Saturn retrograde, because Saturn is trying to tell you that utilize this time not to feel comfortable, but try to generate some amount of bliss, try to generate some new income source, try to generate something beautiful which makes you feel that yes, I can do this forever. The best way to discover this is by asking yourself this question constantly whenever you are doing an activity as an experiment to discover whether it suits you or not. Ask this yourself whenever you get up at 8 in the morning. What is one activity that you will be able to do even with closed eyes? And the answer to that question will exactly make you discover what your natural trait or what you really don't mind putting effort into, or more importantly, what you feel is effortless for you. For example, in case you are a person who used to love number crunching, so solving some new mathematical problems is something that you really enjoy, and therefore if I wake you up at 8, you are able to enjoy solving and those puzzles and problems even at 8 a.m. So that is something which you discovered about yourself, and you actuated that into a habit. It's important for you to rediscover yourself during this Saturn retrograde transit, especially given that this is the perfect time to capitalize different opportunities. This is the perfect time where you are feeling that you are in a dominant position at your workplace compared to what was your condition last year. This is the perfect time for you to feel that, okay, if I need to make a leap, if I need to change a job, I can probably live with it, and I can probably even collect some emergency savings or investments to make sure that my future is more secure. The most beautiful thing about Saturn when it is going third from a sign is that it simultaneously activates your trikona signs, right? Because you will see that fifth from your sign Taurus, ninth from your sign which is Virgo, both are simultaneously activated because of the Saturn transit from third from your moon or ascendant as well. So you will see that I am in a much better control about my finances. I am feeling insecure slightly, not because I am in a bad condition, but rather because I am just more cautious about my future. And that's what the 12th from your sign, Sagittarius, where Saturn is giving the wish fulfillment aspect, means that I need to increase my investments. I need to make sure that I am putting money into my savings. I need to make sure that I am seeing some compounding interest from my money, and I need to make sure that I need to diversify my stock portfolios. I need to revisit my liquid fund portfolio. I need to start gathering some good emergency funds, and this will serve like a boilerplate or a foundational safety backup that will encourage me to stand up for myself against any gaslighting possible at workplace. That is the beauty about this transit. This is also the transit where you saw that your boss might rebel back to you, but you have very, very good communication skills, and you are fostering a culture of data driven decision making throughout your workplace. It doesn't matter whether you are in a government job, whether you are in a private job, whether you are in IT, whether you are an MBA. No, you are there to tell straightforward, backing up every hypothesis with numbers to make sure that the person in front of you is either fully convinced if they are in your favor, or fully destroyed if they are not in your favor. So that is how you are going to approach, and your communication is going to be stern. You will make sure that you use all your wiseness together. Whatever you have learned throughout your career, throughout your education, all of it is going to come to you as a realization at the same time. That's the beauty of Saturn activating both trikonas from your sign. More importantly, you will feel that I am grounded now. I am more spiritual. I know who to seek. I know what my direction is. And that lost purpose, or that lost path that was constantly worrying you last year, where you were in a condition questioning yourself that should I take the road not taken, or should I go down the usual path which society proposes? And chances are that you are the person who actually, despite preaching to others that we should go by what societal notions are, you took the road not taken. And it kind of magically worked out for you, even though you didn't prefer that as a natural choice. And now that is shaping your new belief system, where you feel blessed, where you feel that yes, it's not necessarily to try being practical about everything. It is not necessary for me to try and do SWOT analysis and overthink about all the worst possible scenarios. Sometimes it's important for me to go with the flow. And since you went with the flow, you are able to realize and rediscover a new self around that, right? That's what the beautiful Saturn's aspect to the ninth from your sign really truly means. You will not be in a condition to trust new people. You will not be in a condition to trust new gurus. You will not be in a condition to trust teachers who are only talking about theory. But definitely you are in a condition to trust your experiences. Definitely you are in a condition to go for that nice pilgrimage that you always had planned out for but couldn't take out time for. This is a time where you realize that my self care matters more. This is a time where you realize that yes, money was not everything for me, contrary to what I had thought about. Money is one of the facades that lets me fulfill my responsibility towards others, but it is also my karma to discover and redefine my success metrics where I feel fulfilled, not simply because I am fulfilling my responsibilities, but also I am fulfilling my responsibility towards myself as a person. And this new you definitely is a beautiful opportunity for you to capitalize and move ahead in life. This time around, make sure that you are not utilizing this Saturn transit to have banters with your children. You are not trying to control your children. You are giving them independence enough to discover things out of their own sake. It is okay to normalize mistakes by your children in case there are any, and you need to be a parent that supports them. It is also okay to not be very emotional about things, because that is how you are going to feel towards them. That is how you are going to feel towards your wiseness also. That it is important for me to not feel emotional overly, but because you are feeling overly emotional, that's the biggest challenge that you are going to come, right now in order to align a sense of acceptance towards that. You will also feel that there is a absolutely different beauty to higher learnings when a person embraces solitude. You have already realized, especially if you're a Capricorn moon during your Sadesati peak phase, that it doesn't matter who stayed with me or not. It all mattered whether I had the survival instinct to be able to pass over that phase, even if that was a good phase. That's a beautiful thing about it, right? Because even during a good phase, if Sarasati turned out to be good for you, there are multiple placements where it actually turned out. One thing, it made you realize that once you have faced challenges in life all by yourself, you realize that you honestly don't need everybody else to stand up for you. And this provided you with a beautiful strengthening about your own beliefs that yes, I need not ask for help from anybody else because there is a God and he is or she is watching and the Almighty is helping me out. And this is indeed the most blissful thing as a realization ever, because it challenges your entire core system that is coded or hard coded rather to always tell that put hard work, put more karma. Because now you now realize what is the beauty when you are given a direction and then your karma aligns with that direction. The ninth house is 12th from 10th, your natural sign. Remember that. So dharma starts with a loss of karma, where you cannot navigate with control, where you cannot navigate with hard work, where you cannot make sense of your efforts, that you have to leave everything to a faith. That is how strong this realization during the Saturn retrograde transit is turning out to be. And it is beautiful. So embrace it, love it, and accept it. Be stable, capitalize it, rediscover some natural interest, and make sure that you take out time to regularly go visit your nearby temple, or you inculcate some sort of a routine involving spirituality as per your comfort during this moment. All the very best. Dilemma is one of those things that make you realize that life is difficult even when it sorts out. And such life decisions and such haphazard circumstances is the evidence of the Saturn retrograde transit for Aquarius ascendant and moon folks. Lately, you have been feeling that a lot of opportunities came to your plate, but you constantly wanted to question yourself whether you are ready to take that leap or not. And unfortunately, the control wasn't in your hands despite what you thought about, because you realized that the circumstances took a leap and it is pushing you forward. So time is running fast and you are just somehow trying to make sense about it, trying to adapt to things. You are facing professional, personal, all sort of challenges all at once, and you are trying to make sense out of all of this chaos to take that huge life decision around a dilemma where Saturn wants you to again retrospect. Saturn going retrograde in Pisces, which is second from your sign, is trying to give you a realistic rationale about your current finances. It is trying to tell you that if you are in debt, you need to start taking responsibility and become in charge about it. If you are a person who is contemplating taking debt, or if you are a person who is contemplating doing a higher education degree or going for abroad masters, or trying to make a domain change in career which also has its own financial implications, or even if it is as small as readjusting your entire portfolio to make sure that you are playing safe. All of these things around finances, which are revolving around your money, are going to become very prominent during this transit of Saturn retrograde, second from your sign. You're going to feel that I need not take too much risks. And despite your gut instinct constantly telling you that you are able to go ahead and take that leap, but somehow you are restricting yourself through some self imposed insecurity, you can say, or rather, I would say, a very realistic analysis about different areas of life. More importantly, this transit has been rewarding you constantly, and you are just contemplating whether the effort versus time investment, money investment is actually a good trade off for all the Aquarius folks. This is also a transit where you need to rediscover yourself and try to make new emotional boundaries, make new solitude boundaries, make sure that other people aren't misunderstanding you because you are taking some time to introspect and process things. Because the eighth from your sign, which is Virgo, is also highly activated at the moment, and therefore you are in a state of mind where you just feel comfortable being by yourself. For example, if you are living with two or three people together, if you are having multiple roommates, you might come into a situation where you feel drained even talking to them at the moment. You feel very comfortable that once they leave for their own offices, then only I will open the door and step out, even in the living room or the living area or the common area rather. And that is how this transit is actually transitioning you as well. And it is totally okay to process that isolation, to process that solitude, because you certainly feel one important thing, that till date you have always let others make a lot of choices for you, and this area of life is eating you up, eating up your mind and making you overthink a lot. For example, even today, when you are about to take a decision regarding a dilemma, whether it is about taking some big financial debts, whether it is about taking that job career leap, you realize that you are constantly consulting somebody else, asking for advice, whether it is somebody who is experienced in that field, whether it is somebody who is trying to provide you a fresh third party perspective, whether it is somebody who is involved in even occult practices because the eighth is also active, whether it is somebody who is within your network, and you are trying to make a lot of your choices basis the opinions given down by them. It is a good thing that you are a very good requirement gatherer. But unfortunately, Saturn is trying to constantly tell you and introspect what you really want. How do you define what is satisfying for you? Because its aspect to fourth from your sign on Taurus exactly questions that as a challenge. So when you say that I don't want to pursue masters right now, or vice versa, when you say that I want to pursue masters, take that as an analogy, as a decision dilemma, then you should not have a reasoning that I took down notes from 7 to 8 people and after that I realized that it's a bad decision. You should not say that I consulted with a lot of people who got admitted and then after that I decided that it's a good decision. Because the moment you are giving all of that control to somebody else, you are still not feeling confident about addressing dilemmas. And this is the exact problem that you have been facing. Constantly, you have been facing this. So make sure that you go ahead and decide what really you want. What is it that satisfies you? What is it that your desire is? And trust me, because Saturn is also giving an 10th aspect to 11th from your sign on Sagittarius, it is trying to again and again tell you reconsider what is your own desire rather than considering what other people's desires are. And during this entire transition, especially in the last 2 or 3 months, many of you have lost friends, have lost network, have lost reach, have kind of realized that okay, not everybody who tagged along like a network actually turned out to be a genuine connection, which is totally fine. Once again, you already had seen it coming, but it hurts when somebody you are attached to actually emulates a behavior that repels against you. But more importantly, you got to know that who sticks with you even during your silence. And more importantly, this is not a negative transit because there had never been a fight between you and this other person. They just left with silence on their own without even confronting, without even discussing or explaining themselves. And you are kind of processing that. But honestly, that is the last thing to bother you currently on your plate. There are many other life decisions that you are about to make. You are also slightly concerned about your health. Some of you might also actively try seeking therapy. Some of you might actually consider trying to research in depth about making your own choices. This is also a very wonderful time that I would suggest you to read up about psychology a little bit more, read up about what truly makes you feel desirable, what truly makes you feel happy, and try contemplating if all of that together makes sense in your life at the moment. Because the more you do, the closer you are going to give a sense or an indication to Saturn that I am ready, elevate me. Remember, Saturn is never going to negatively function for you unless it is very badly afflicted in the chart, right? So, Saturn is trying to just give you a heads up, a reality check that yes, you have been a person who constantly used to go with the flow, but more importantly, you need to be a person who is taking accountability about making their own decisions, who is not basing that accountability about a big life decision on somebody else's analysis. And when you do a lot of analysis, it does not necessarily mean that you depend on others' opinions alone. There is slight amount or slight need for you to introduce your cognitive bias also into shaping that opinion, and that is what is the need of the hour for all the Aquarius folks. And this entire Saturn retrograde transit is trying to make you realize that, and if you don't learn that lesson, again you will end up in a loop where you will be forced to go with the flow. Remember, you are right now trying to make sense of things by suffering from a perfection syndrome, where you feel that, okay, if I take up this opportunity, I am settling on less than my worth. If I am letting that relation take over me, I am settling for less than my worth. But you need to contemplate that it is you who decides what is worthy for you or not. Others don't get to decide what is worthy for you or not. For example, if you feel that your potential spouse or partner is not really as good as somebody else, then that's a dilemma that you are trying to impose upon yourself. But if you feel the same thing, if somebody else is telling you, that is going from a very different picture or an angle, right? Because then you can argue over there that maybe it's not perfect for you, but the way he or she is absolutely perfect for me. And the reason they are perfect for me is more than sufficient for me to stick up with them. Take that as an analogy and apply it to different dilemmas that you are seeing in life currently, right? So, similarly, navigate things in a much more cautious fashion and in a much more discoverable fashion where you are open to flexibility around your decisions, but you are not open to rigidity about opinions from others. And you need to learn to induce that rigidity into your flexible analysis. I know all of this might not make sense immediately, but if you rewatch this, you will start understanding what exactly I'm trying to say. And I tried to craft my words exactly in the way you are feeling right now. And therefore, even if others don't understand, all my Aquarius friends, you will definitely understand what I'm talking about. The next thing on your plate is that if you feel insecure about your finances, then you are absolutely correct about it. You need to feel insecure. The reason is you should not run away from it. You should try to minimize those expenses. You should try to see where is my unexpected expenses lying and try to mitigate it somehow. Some of you might also see some active relocations happening, or this relocation is not permanent. You might just travel for an ad hoc period to some other country. You might just travel for an ad hoc period to attend some event. You might be traveling to be involved in an event regarding yourself as well. So keep all of that in mind. And the more important thing is that you are kind of losing that constant enthusiasm. So it is okay, but don't let others take a hit because of that. Try to remain stable as a personality. rather than shifting your energies accordingly. And even though this might sound toxic, but keep things to yourself a bit. The more you seek out advice, somehow, even when you don't realize, you become slightly more vulnerable than what you were supposed to. And becoming that vulnerable also leads to attraction of a lot of jealousy from other people, because you are facing a dilemma, but the other person is perceiving you as a person who is suffering from success, which you clearly don't relate to, isn't it? And therefore, chances of you being misunderstood with that is higher, and it is important for you to do all the research that you are contemplating on your own. In case you still feel that there are some connections who simply went into silence and there is absolutely devastating for you, then make sure you reach it out, put some initial efforts about it, see how the reaction comes around it, and basis that reaction, take your decision with a lot of wiseness. Chances are that, let's say, if you let them come back in as well, you might kind of hate the fact that, we are not going back to version 1, and you might start feeling awkward. And the moment you start feeling drained of your energy, you might end up shunning them in silence the same way they did to you. And therefore, be careful around that area as well, a little bit during this time around. But more importantly, try to process everything, and slowly things will start making sense for you. So don't be in a rush, be in a very cautious and responsible state during this entire transit. So, all the very best to all my Aquarius friends. Om Namo Venkateshaya. Let's understand the Saturn retrograde transit till November end for Pisces moon and Pisces ascendant folks. For Pisces moon folks who are now in a peak phase of Sadesati, I would say this is actually a more positive transit compared to what you had expected from the earlier transits around. And honestly, it's not exactly a relief, but it is definitely a state of mind where you have learned to accept things better. You already saw some breakouts in your relationship. You already saw what you were perceiving as perfect turned out to be imperfect. You already saw running away from your friends as well. You already saw that you are not able to express or communicate your problems in a very relaxed and straightforward fashion to others, and you already became very hesitant in expressing or voicing your concerns to others as well. So during all these ups and downs you have been through, one thing that you have learned in a very beautiful way is that the only wish fulfillment that Saturn gives to you is 10th from your sign, and interestingly is your career. Interestingly is your karma. So you decided somehow that I will stick to working and I will find new work. I will discover my true mastery. For example, if you were into IT, you decided that okay, let me upskill, or let me make sure that I am delivering the best possible product to my client. If you were into freelancing, that you discovered that okay, there are other ways to generate income as well. You rediscovered your entire career and you are trying to align a new trajectory altogether to it. And it's really beautiful because it's keeping you busy, because it's keeping you on toes constantly, and more importantly because you realize that putting all that karma is making you forget all the issues that you have been facing in the past. And therefore, all the time, I would say one thing, that whenever Saturn comes to your own sign during a Sadesati, you automatically see good results. Even if it's an enemy sign, I would say. I would argue that. For enemy signs, it might be Vipreet results, where they are initially facing struggle and then it converts into a blessing, but they do realize that later on. And the reason for that is Saturn does not necessarily do injustice in the sign where it is sitting, and therefore it will definitely make you elevate into a new career mode altogether. For a lot of you that had been contemplating, let me change my job, you already might have changed, in fact, and you are now exploring some new opportunity. For a lot of you that you were thinking that I am a master in this particular skill, suddenly you discovered that I can actually master one more skill, or I am pretty natural at some other skill also, and I'm actually enjoying it because Saturn is aspecting third from your sign to your third house. So a lot of hands-on things are coming, a lot of new natural traits are being discovered, and it's truly very different from how it is being experienced by Capricorn, because Capricorns are still processing it as a blessing. You are processing it as a result of your efforts. And that's what Saturn is truly beautiful about. Saturn is trying to make you realize that everything, the entire game, is about perception. If Saturn is giving you obstacles, you realize that if I sit and cry about it, then it will always remain a problem. But if I stand up and even if I am not directly confronting the problem, I'm trying to at least work up something or trying to deliver at least something, then that obstacle is converted into an opportunity. And the beautiful thing is, the moment you changed your perception to this, Saturn blessed you with a loaded set of opportunities coming all together at once. And when you are overloaded with opportunity, what do you get? You become busy. And that's what exactly this entire transit is about. You would have realized that, okay, in the past few months, I was crying and ranting about a lot of things. And since the last month or so, suddenly I am going into a phase where I am realizing that I need not call that friend of mine. I need not necessarily get back into a relationship very fast. I need not be seeking validation from my mother that fast. I need not be explaining all my decisions to my potential spouse or partner. And yes, it has been working out fine. You realize that, okay, it's totally okay to not be expressive. It is totally okay to not take care of people, to not nurture them, to not be there for them. And you realize that, okay, I need to be there for myself first. And that realization, if was supported by some friends, you love those friends more now, because that's what the third aspect of the third house actually shows. And if it was not supported by some people, you are like, it's okay, I can let you go, I can remain without. And that's how beautiful this transit is, because it is all about the game of perception. Later on, you will realize that yes, this transit was all about elevating my career. If I'm putting in the due efforts, basis my perception of how I'm seeing problems coming in my life, but it is also about transitioning your faith or societal image from being a visionary to becoming a problem solver. And it is agnostic to any field you are right now currently working in. Constantly, you had been seen as the person who keeps on giving advice. Now you are proving it to other people that I can run the path which I give advice about. I can practice what I preach as well. And this is something slightly similar to, I would say, Cancer folks also, but for you, it is more prominent because Saturn is going through your sign directly. More importantly, you are also going to see shifts about the way you perceive your own public image. For example, earlier it really mattered to you that your spouse sees you in a good light, that your family, your mother, father always see you in a very supportive light, and they appreciate your success or they recognize your efforts, and you are rewarded by your friends for your empathy. Now you are in a mode that, where is my reciprocation? And if there is none, then why am I even being bothered about this? For example, earlier you used to very seamlessly help out other people, or let's say, let's take an example that somebody used to ask for monetary help and you help them out very readily. But the moment you, even though you are a person who is very unwilling to ask for reciprocation, ask for help back, but you confronted them because of Saturn's aspect to your communication house made you a little bit straightforward and rude, and you said, okay, give my money back. Or you said, okay, um, I helped you over here, let's make this transactional, give my help back to me, I need help in this area of life, or I need to rant about my ongoing life and you need to listen to it because I empathized with you earlier. And you saw people changing behavior towards you, and that triggered you like crazy. And this is what Peak Sadesati is all about, because it is about recognizing the fact that yes, what all glitters is not necessarily golden. And you are not even working to fix towards that. Keep that in mind. You just worked out to move away from it. There are chances that you might even have been slightly abusive unexpectedly, because you were pretty straightforward in terms of communicating that. And then immediately after you became aggressive slightly, or passive aggressive slightly, you realize that okay, this is a new form of myself that even I never discovered before. And you realize that, I'm kind of cool with it. It's okay. The other person deserved it. You told yourself that as a reassurance, and then you moved on. And that's how things are progressing slowly. You realized that empathy and apathy have a very fair boundary line between them. And the moment you feel that there is no longer any effort from the other end, or rather, I would say not even effort, because you are okay without reciprocation. I would say the moment you felt that you were not valued enough, or you were not acknowledged enough for putting in that effort, you realize that it is totally okay to gaslight the other person. You should not be on the receiving end. And you normalize that, and you saw that normalization working out as well, interestingly. So you further normalize that into a habit. But more importantly, you stop bothering about all of that, and you started making yourself busy. You started seeing that yes, I need to go to a better physical routine, not because I want to look good, but because I want to feel perfect about my own personality from inside. And that innate feeling is important to me. So, this changed the way you perceive your own perception or societal image. That's what the seventh aspect to the seventh house from your sign on Virgo currently means. And how you shifted your entire trajectory is via your career. So continue doing that. Be rigid about your thoughts. Don't be flexible. This might sound hypocritical, but yes, be rigid. When Saturn is in your sign, you are supposed to capitalize by being rigid, because that is natural domain for Saturn. And remember, rigidity has a very fair line between becoming egoistic and being rigid. There is a very small difference between being dignified and being an egoistic. And you need to make sure that you don't cross that line. Otherwise, this will backlash. So make sure that you put those boundaries, and people who accept that boundary are definitely in your good circle. You should continue appreciating them. You should not become a little bit egoistic and drift away from them. But more importantly, who did not respect that boundary, give them one chance, but not more than that. And that's how empathy will navigate towards apathy. This is not what you are doing, but this is the reaction from the other side about it. That's the reason Saturn is going retrograde and asking you introspect, observe other people, observe the reactions, check what has constantly worked out for you earlier, and rediscover what will start working out for you in the future. In the last Saturn retrograde of last year, you discovered that everything that was working out for you earlier stopped working out, and things became a little bit into a downfall. So, this Saturn retrograde tells you that I have given you a new opportunity, and I am giving you those initial results, but you need to perform that analysis and discover what is that other thing that is working out for you, and capitalize on that other thing to elevate your karma, to elevate your career. And I am here to support you. I am here to make sure that you are not only seen as a preacher, but you actually become a practitioner. So, all the very best for this Saturn retrograde to all my Pisces friends, and make sure you are able to capitalize all the blessings and opportunities coming from it. Thank you.